Hi, what's up, chalkers? Welcome to the Let's Chalk About It podcast. If you're new to fitness or just want to hang with some like-minded fitness folk, then this is the place for you. Remember, it's always good to chalk about it.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Let's Chalk About It. I am joined, as always, by Interruptus Maximus, Chris McKenzie, and Captain Jack, Scott Carson. And this week, I'm going to try and reel off all the things. So, former Marine, former rugby player, record holder, all-round endurance athlete, Jack Fleckney.
Hello, mate. How are we doing? You okay?
Not bad. How are you?
Awesome. Yeah, thank you very much for having me on. It's good to meet you all guys properly and hear about the good things you've been up to.
It's an absolute honour to have you on. This is the first time we have ever had a record holder on this podcast, so it is a first for us as well.
No, thank you very much.
So, well, I'll tell you what. Well, let's just dive straight in onto the record to start with, because I think that's the thing that a lot of people are very interested in. Is, you know, we've not had a record holder on, so for us as well, it'd be interesting to sort of go down that route of how you got into it, how it how it developed as something you wanted to do.
Yeah, of course. Well, I think I've had a background of doing lots of stupid challenges before, whether it be for charity or to drum up interest about some of the things I've been up to. So it was sort of a natural step leading towards doing it. And I've built experience of dealing with some of those different hardships that you find yourself in when you're trying some of these endurance-based records. And then literally during that first lockdown, I've been so busy, it was something to work towards. And I wanted something to train towards and go, yeah, I'm going to go gun for that. Had the idea of doing the Ski Erg. I didn't use it that much. And I've done something before. I've done 88,000 meters on it before, and it was horrendous because I didn't know about nutrition or anything. We were talking about eating earlier, Chris, and I really struggled with it. I felt dizzy. Right at the end, I was nearly collapsing just because I hadn't eaten anything. I'd literally just skied and non-stop and just gone for it. So it was horrendous. So the idea of learning to do 24 hours and giving myself something that made me feel a bit nervous, I knew the challenge was going to be really tough to get, was good. And it sort of linked in. I was supporting a charity during the time called the Saints Foundation, and they work with kids in the Northamptonshire area where you guys are from as well, and specifically quite a lot of kids from Corby as well. So they worked with them, and during the first lockdown, it absolutely nailed them because they lost all their investment, any kind of funding. So they were really panicking about whether the business and the charity could continue to help the kids. So from knowing some of them, it was like, well, let's do this, let's give it a go. And by it being a world record, people are more interested, so they buy into it a little bit more, and obviously in turn donated money, and we ended up raising, I think, just over £7,000 for them, which helped them through a month or two to keep going. And now, now they're going strong, so it was worth it.
Nice one. 7,000, good work.
It was a good lesson in terms of how to push it out and let everyone know about it. I've been historically terrible at using any kind of social media. So I've been working pretty hard over the last month or two now to hopefully try and tell the story a little bit more about some of the things I've done and got coming up.
Yeah,
Sorry, go on, Chris.
I was going to say that sort of set the foundation, and it's like obviously had a massive imprint in your mind because you're going, hang on, things that are like attractive and people want to watch, is obviously just draws a massive amount of attention. That probably like spoke volumes to you, didn't it?
Oh, it did, mate, massively. Yeah. I saw the power of it in terms of being able to help others as well. So I think historically I haven't used the media platforms for that reason, because I was never really interested in, not in a bad way, but I was never really interested in what other people wanted to see, what I've been up to. And also for my own mental health, I didn't actually like using social media, so I stayed away from it quite a bit.
Right.
But now I sort of understand the power of it and the need to use it in order to actually do what my mission, which is actually hopefully to look back in 20, 30 years and think, I use maybe one or two of my skills I've got to help other people and make a real difference that hopefully I can feel proud of. Yeah.
Epic.
Yeah, I mean, you should feel massively proud of the number. I think it was 283,131 meters achieved in 23 hours and 15 minutes. So you still had 45 minutes left.
Yes.
And still smashed the record.
Oh, thank you, mate. Yeah, well, I think I had a game plan for it. So funny story, really. So I announced I did it, and we had a meeting like on Zoom like this with the charity, and I was like, yeah, great. And the record was set at something like 240. I got off and I was like, I'll have a little check on and see, just check, just to make sure. And literally that day, someone had beaten the world record by like another marathon and took it up to like 2:77, I think it was.
Oh my God.
And I was like, oh, you're kidding me. Because I'd had a whole game plan built towards doing 250. I thought that's achievable. I think I can, yeah, it'll be hard, but I can do it. So then obviously that completely changed the game plan. But what happened was, I'm sure we'll probably delve into it about mindset and doing these things. My game plan was I broke it into hour blocks and into 6 hour blocks. So every hour had to complete a certain distance for the first 6 hours. And then the distance got a little bit lower for the next 6, then a little bit lower, and a little bit lower. So all it meant was that every time I got through 6 hours, it was like, yes, now the distance a little bit lower. So it made me feel like I was getting ahead of the game and winning. I did the first 6 hours and I felt really good. And I was like, I'm going to hold that distance and keep chipping at it. And then I got to the 12 hours and I was like, you know what, we're going for it. I'm going to hold out. If I crash, I'll crash. I'm going to see if I can hold that pace. And did that. I got to the 18-hour point. I thought, I'm going to keep going. I've got this. I can go to 300,000 meters. And with about 4 hours to go, I just held the same pace every hour. I had some kind of, I don't know whether it's some kind of muscular or intercostal muscle issue in my left side, where it literally stopped me lifting my arm up, because every time I lifted my elbow up, I got like this real severe like stabbing pain in the back of my scap.
It was probably something quite like trivial, like your heart.
Yeah.
It's probably nothing to worry about. It's just your heart stopping working altogether.
It probably was. So
this right here is like, it was a heart attack is what it was, I think.
It probably was. That could be another good story for a podcast, couldn't it? But so I ended up not being able to lift my hand up. So for the last 4 hours, I had to do it with one hand. So it was a bit disappointing, but that sort of helped the first 18 hours or 20 hours of going or pushing myself relatively hard. It did pay dividends towards the end.
Is that just to add an insult to injury of the person who beat the record that you just did the last 4 hours one-handed as well?
No, I didn't do it on purpose, I promise.
Well, if they weren't annoyed before,
at the end, because I'm sure we'll delve into this as well, but I don't really get that much fulfillment from doing these things. And it personally, I do feel fulfilled from helping others, but I finish these, I look at it, I'm like, well, that weren't very good. I could have done better. And that was very much like that because of the having to go to single arm or dropping down on the aim distance. But yeah, I was happy to get it. And obviously we got the main aim, which was to get it and raise money.
So from a training point of view, how did you start your journey into that record then? I mean, from a nutrition and a training point of view, was there a lot of things you had to change, a lot of things you had to adapt to?
No, not really. Do you want to go short term? I said I was going to do it, and I think I had 8 weeks till the day when I sort of decided I was going to go for it. So in terms of nutrition, no, nothing. The only thing I did was I planned what I was going to eat and made sure I had enough food to eat and a few variations, because when you do these endurance style events, it's funny how your body reacts. And so this is, people were messaging me going, just recently when I did that YouTube video, like, what do you eat? And during the 24 hours, my main thing I ate was pretty much nearly every hour, I had those McCain's microwavable chips, just with loads of salt on.
Sodium, I'm telling you.
When I was doing it, that's all I fancied. That's all I sort of wanted. Other than that, I had little bits like, it's just about calories during the event. You just got to eat calories and calories and calories and get as much in as possible, because I trialed it out with the training. All I did, and very much like you guys do your lifting, it's like linear progression. So you just add a little bit more stimulus every single time. So I started off by, I skied a marathon. So I did like 42,000 meters on it, and I had a pace I sat at. Then I said, right, now I'm going to try and do 100,000. Then I'm going to try and do 120, 150. And I think I probably ended up doing maybe like 20 sessions in the lead up. And I just mixed it up a bit. I did some silly sessions where I'd ski a marathon and then run 20 miles, and just to mix it up and make it a bit different for me. And then then the main bits I did were 4 hours on the ski, then 8 hours, then 12 hours. And I've got like a 50% rule with any of these challenges. And it's, if I can do 50% of it in training, I can usually do it in the event. So I can do the whole lot. So, and after you've done about 50% of those kind of 24 hours events, you've done 12 hours. At the end of that, it's about getting nutrition and mindset right. It's not about your physical ability to deal with that. So yeah, I made the mistake during the 8 hours where I went really fast and I didn't eat very much and I massively crashed. I sat down for a few minutes, ate loads of food, and about 10 minutes later, I felt like normal again. So it was a good lesson where during the 24 hours, I just made myself eat every hour, a little break.
So I'm intrigued because a lot of your sports are obviously very extreme end of things from an endurance point of view. I was watching your video that you did with the roastery. It was talking about when you said about wanting to join the Marines and how it was the longest basic training, and that was a flag to you that stood out. Now I'm intrigued to know, like, what is it that drives that extreme, that the things that are pulling you in from it has to be really challenging point of view?
Yeah, do you know what? This is actually something I've been trying to dive into myself, and I think we're all in a constant flow of trying to find more about ourselves and find out why we think the way we do. So for me, I get bored really, really quickly. So, and if I'm not challenged,
playing the PlayStation or something.
yeah, well, this is it. So if I'm not being challenged, then I can't do it. So like, if you gave me a menial task and I knew I could do it, and it was just like I'd probably start doing it, I'd get bored really quickly. And I think there's something naturally that pushed me towards trying to make myself better and also challenge myself. So I think that's probably where it all comes from. How it all started, I'm probably not sure. And then, it's just slowly evolved into what it has now. It started off when I was really young, wanting to just push myself to get better. And I enjoyed that process. And then I sort of enjoyed the process of trying to, throw big challenges at myself and accomplish them or not. And I think as I got a bit older, I realised that it didn't matter if I failed or not. It was more so the opportunity just to go after them and get them done.
I seen early on that you I think it was one of your other your video that you recently put out was about your dad saying about you doing pull-ups.
Yeah.
And you then decided that, well, just because you can do any, you were going to go out at night time, you were going to start practicing, you were going to do some jumping pull-ups. Is that kind of one of them factors, or do you think that maybe where it all started, that you sort of wanted to drive you into doing these sort of things?
Yeah, that was definitely a start for my fitness, in terms of getting into, I probably at that age I was playing rugby. I was only young, so I was playing rugby, but I wasn't, into any kind of fitness stuff. I just enjoyed doing sport, and I wasn't the sportiest either. Like, I've not come from any kind of elite background of sport before I started doing them, so parents weren't really into the sports or anything. It was more that, we were at that park, and I remember him doing my dad did a pull-up on the pull-up bar, or the swings, what they were, and then he said, you do one. I couldn't do one, and I remember literally, I think it was that night I went down there when it got dark and started practicing, and I actually just really enjoyed, and this is probably a key, and it's a bit like you guys, your training, I just enjoyed it. So I enjoyed going down there late at night and doing press-ups, and naturally, I was doing what we all do as training. I was just slowly making it a little bit harder and pushing myself, and that's where then I think the fitness journey started, because it started off where I'd do it there, then I started going for runs, and then I'd run to the park and do all stuff, and it just slowly evolved, and I started going to the gym. So that was definitely the start of the fitness journey for me.
Cool. I mean, you were also in the Marines as well, which was obviously very, I'm guessing quite exciting, and had a lot of interesting journeys. Is there any sort of particular things that stick out for you that when you were part of the Marines?
I was really lucky in terms of opportunity that I had when I was in. So I went through like selection, which is about 9 months, if you're not counting all the pre-selection bits, when I was between the age of 17 and 18, going through that training. So I was very young. I think I loved training. It was an awesome experience to be in that sort of elite environment and a really high pressure, because if you're not good enough, you're out. It's probably a little bit different to your standard military groups, where sort of they're going to try and get you through it, and they will shout at you to get you through it. With Marine training, it's very much, if you're not good enough, you're out. So yeah, I really love training, and then when I passed out of training and I joined my commando unit, which was any ex-Marines listening, it's 40 Commando. I was there for 2 or 3 weeks. We then just deployed out straight away, and after that, I think for So I was in for 5 years, and I'd say probably nearly 4 years of them I was away doing different things, whether it be, I think in my first year, I think I visited something along the lines of 12 different countries. And then after that, it just evolved to going different tours and going all over the place. So I was really lucky, and I definitely learned a lot from being around some, really incredible people.
Amazing. Have you read Jocko Willink's book?
I have, yes, I have. Which one?
Extreme Ownership.
Yeah, really good book, isn't it?
You like it?
Yeah,
I do like it.
The way you said that, Chris, like
I know. I don't know why I said like that.
No, I did. I thought it was very relevant, and obviously I know it comes from a very military background, so maybe not so many people can understand the principle of it, but I thought it was really well written. And very interesting. Actually, funny enough, it's one of the books that I try and make some of the leaders within the business read as some of their learning.
Do you like the example with the boat training? I don't know if you went through anything similar with your experience. Do you remember the story with the?
Go on, if you say it now.
Yeah, so they had teams of these boat trainers, like a really significant part of their marine training. Is it Marines that you would have gone through?
He was Navy SEALs, yeah.
SEALs, that was it. Sorry, yeah, SEALs.
The American side of it, yeah.
Yeah, so they would have had these, like 6 boat teams, 6 chaps per boat, and they've got to do this race. They've got to carry the boat out, and they're not allowed to get in it. They've just got to sort of paddle with it and get it back. And then the weakest team, they would pick the leader from there and say, well, how are you getting on? And they would find that maybe they're complaining, they're not happy about losing all the time. And they said, well, let's see if it's about leadership or if it's about your performance. So they swapped the best boat leader with the worst, and then they sent him back out. And then lo and behold, the better leader was able to draw that out of his men, and they were able to then start winning the races just because they sort of started swapping leaders around. And I think that's one of the best stories I took from the book, but it just sort of sprung up in my mind because you started talking about your experience with the Marines.
Yeah, and that is very, very true. And actually, one thing I look back and realised that when I went through training and through all the different bits I did, I was very young, so I wasn't mature enough to understand those leadership principles probably. But now, in hindsight, I look back and I spent some time with some incredible and some poor leaders in the military,
wow,
which enabled me probably now to understand how I want to communicate to people and how I want to work, and probably how I want to, behave and be and be around others and help them lead. But it's so true. The way your mannerisms are will dictate the environment, the situation that you're trying to lead. So yeah, very true.
What does a good leader look like?
I think it's very different based on each individual, and also I think a good leader has the ability to adapt to the group around them. So we'll look at, say, us 4 here. The way we might get after a challenge might be very different if I had another 3 guys working with me, or girls, whoever. So a good leader has the ability probably to engage all audiences that they're working with and motivate them to work hard for the leader. There's obviously principles that I have and that I've built in, and we can probably talk about number one, just being a good guy and caring for every person that is with you and working with you. Little things, for instance, like have you heard about like the New Zealand All Blacks and some of their principles? You may have probably, I know you spoke
yeah,
but things like
maybe not. Scott and Kieran don't have like rugby background, but they do know the All Blacks, like how elite they are and how their performance.
Yeah, they've got some really cool leadership principles. One of them is called clean the sheds. So their principle is basically, no matter how good you think you are or how high up you think you are, you still, you're not good at you can always clean the sheds out. So after the game, when they used to finish the games and change rooms are a mess, the captain and the leadership group would clean the changing rooms before they left. And it's just a small principle that, again, whether it be, no matter what, I'd be the first one to put my hand up to go and do extra work or go and do something to help others out. So I think there's that side to leadership in terms of your own individual principles. Now I think there's so much we could talk about there in terms of the way you communicate. Yeah. I love leadership, and I'm really excited to learn more and apply it into different environments.
Epic, yeah. We could have went on and on, but I just thought I'd get like a quick snippet of what you thought.
So following the Marines, is that right in saying that you left the Marines and then wanted to follow more of the CrossFit side of things, which is where ShireFit come into it?
Yes, yeah. I think my love of fitness sort of fueled that. When I was in the Marines, I started training quite a lot. When we were home, we didn't have much to do. We'd have a lot of time to train. So I was playing rugby at the time in the forces, and then I was also doing lots of fitness training. So yeah, I started to compete in CrossFit competitions and was probably getting to the point where I was competing at a high level around Europe and the UK. So naturally, that sort of led me towards training lots. And then I started to coach a few people, just help them. It was very much just like ad hoc, helping people out. And the one thing that I wasn't getting from being in the military was the fuel to help people. So we were going on deployments and things and doing different jobs. And I always felt that the stuff we were doing wasn't really making a huge difference. And also it was risking a lot of people's lives and those situations. So whereas when I started coaching someone, I actually saw something in front of my eyes where they were getting physically better and they were really enjoying it. So it was a good fuel for me. And that's the process where in my mind I was like, I've done stuff I wanted to do in the forces now. I'd love the challenge and seeing if I could try and do something like grow a gym or coach people. So that was the process. So I remember, I think I came back I think I've been out in America doing some training with the US Marines out there for a few months. And I came back and I remember handing my notice in, had to work a year's notice. And during that year, I literally just started planning, ready to, open a gym. When I handed my notice in, I didn't know I wanted to open a gym, but I knew I wanted to get into fitness very much like you guys are into. And then after that, I handed my notice in, planned it all, and I thought, well, gym's the natural avenue for me to go along.
Oh, and it's, I believe it or not, it's 5 years, I think, this year, isn't it, that the Tri-Fit have started?
Yeah, just over 5 years now, yeah. So 6 years since I left and just over 5 now the gym's been running, yeah.
And how many have you currently got running?
We've got 4 locations running now. So yeah, we've got 2 in Northamptonshire, 1 up in Leeds, and then 1 in Wolverhampton as well.
Cool. I'm right in saying that you're stepping away from the gym side of things now because you've got a lot of other things coming up that you want to concentrate on.
Yeah, so very much like then when I sort of made that transition, I'm now going for another transition. So I'm currently selling the gyms that I own to independent owners, which is very exciting because it's going to give them the opportunity to do something they love with a membership base really there in a community and really help evolve that. And they're going to get the support from Max, who's now stepping in as the owner and CEO of Shire Fit as the HQ and umbrella, supporting all of the individual gyms. So yeah, no, I'm literally going through that transition right now. So it's a very busy, crazy time, but also pretty exciting.
Sounds great. That sounded really bad, didn't it? I mean, it sounded like that. It does sound great. That sounds great. What that was meant to be was, that's a great way of moving on to the things that you've got coming up. So I believe you are actually going for another record in the future, which is the chin-up record in 24 hours.
That's correct, yeah.
And how many, what numbers are you looking at for that?
The record, I think, is about just over 5,000, so 5,300, I believe, in the 24 hours. Which, if you put it down into numbers...
Sorry, say that again?
Sorry, if you put it down into numbers, I believe it's about averaging about 5 chin-ups every minute for 24 hours.
Okay. Have you ever been tested for mental health?
Yes, yeah, which again, I'm sure we can delve into, yes. Yeah.
So have you got a fixed number? Like, have you got like a goal you want to try and hit for the sort of totaling, or
no,
just going to go for it? Just going to do what you did last time? You going to do a couple of one-handed ones, or are we just going to...
No, unfortunately, I haven't got the strength to do a one-handed one. But no, we're going to, as I build up, I'll slowly start to build a goal into it, because we've probably got about nine weeks until I would do it. So yeah, as we evolve, I'll start to look at it and see what is realistic and what I think I can try and achieve with it. But no goal at the minute. The goal obviously is to try and beat the world record. I picked this one because traditionally all the challenges I've done in the past have been well suited to my physical abilities. So as an example, just doing stuff where it's just like cardio, just suffering through it, get through it. This is not good for me because I sit at 100 kilos and I've got really long arms. So you would naturally not say I would do something like this, which is the reason I've chosen to do it, because it's going to hopefully push me to limits. There's a high likelihood of me failing it, which will hopefully be exciting for you guys to watch and follow along. And then if I do it, it'll be, it'll be a good opportunity for me and hopefully get some good engagement for the charities that we're working with.
Cool. What do you want to go into the charities a little bit more so we can at least get some coverage from that? What sort of charity you're looking to work with this year?
Yeah, so I've got 2 avenues of charities I'm going to work with. So the first one is military charities. So I've done a lot in the past for different military charities. Obviously, usually mainly towards a mental health aspect and support. So that's what we'll talk again about in a bit. But one of the things I'm doing, we're doing for something called Walking with the Wounded, which is a charity which support military personnel when they've left the military or in transition of leaving the military, because it is a big jump. And a lot of us, and I definitely didn't appreciate it until I made that jump. And I was very lucky that I probably had a bit of a support network behind me that allowed me to do that transition. But I even had hardships where I was like, what have I done? And the story for me was I had a unit actually in Kettering ready to go to open a gym. And I handed my ID card, and on the drive home from the camp to drive home as a civilian, I got a phone call to say they've pulled out the deal. They don't want you a gym in the building anymore. So I went from thinking I was opening a gym in a few weeks' time to suddenly not having a building. And I remember that literally, I think a week later, I had to go to one of like the careers kind of offices where they sort of try and find your agency jobs. And I was working in a warehouse counting socks. And I'd just gone from being a Royal Marine Commando, working with the elite in small groups, to suddenly working in a warehouse counting socks. And I was like, what have I done? And I was down in the dumps thinking I've made a mistake here. And it was funny.
My God.
Now I laugh about it, but I know when I was doing it, it was a huge motivator to say, I'm going to open the gym. But now it made me realise that actually I was lucky in the sense of I was very, very driven. I had a goal to work towards. So I could carry on doing it. I could have kept working at a warehouse if I had to for as long as I could to get the gym open. Whereas I know a lot of people don't have that support or know their direction. A lot of people leave the military with mental health issues or problems that maybe they hadn't had the opportunity to sort out until they'd left. So this is what that charity do. They support right down to finding jobs, to just to being someone there to talk to. But then the whole transition I'm going through is actually to hopefully use some of my skills and love of exploration and fitness just to help and make a difference. And the other big difference for me is children's charities. So that's going to be my main avenue, is going to be targeting a vast array of different children's charities. So we're looking at the minute supporting the foundation, which are doing their role is basically to support children that maybe aren't right for the school, for schools, or for instance, kids that have been groomed into gangs or had problems from a real young age, maybe not got family support networks and things, and they basically try and give them an opportunity for the future when it goes to education, jobs, support. So I'm doing stuff with them, but there's going to be a lot of different children charities that I'll be working with in the near future, especially with some of the bigger challenges I've planned.
Oh, that is absolutely amazing, and something that we cover quite often on this podcast that comes up quite a lot is mental health. So if there is anything we can do from a promotion point of view or anything like that, then by all means, please give us a shout. We'll obviously put all your links below of any of the charities you're currently supporting. So if anyone wants to go there and donate, they can do that straight off this video.
I really appreciate it, mate. I'm sure we'll have to get you guys involved with some of the challenges that maybe some of the chin-ups and a bit of running through the desert with me, maybe.
Yeah, I'll happily film, mate. That's absolutely fine.
I will do one chin-up in 24 hours. How about that? It's a feat.
Chris, are you in? Any more than 5?
Challenge me any day. Let's do it, whatever it is.
Awesome.
Cool. So on top of the 24 hours of chin-ups and probably all the other training you're doing, you're also training, and I'm going to try and say this correctly, for the marathon des Sables. Is that right?
Yeah, sounds right. To be honest with you, I'm not even sure if I'm saying it correctly, but I did get told I was saying it right last week. So yeah, that's how you say it. Yeah. That event is a multi-day event across the Sahara Desert. It's basically a race across the Sahara Desert. It's about 250 kilometers. It is called the toughest race on earth. And it's something I've been really interested in, actually, when I was in the military and wanted to do it. But I didn't have the funds. I didn't have the money to do it all the time. So when the event was on, I was often away somewhere. And yeah, I think it's appealed to me just because of that environment, the idea of going to the desert to do something like that, and actually like the idea of doing it is quite scary. So it's sort of, it just motivated me to have a go for it. And again, it's a good opportunity to hopefully raise some money for the military charity that's supporting me through the event.
And I'm right in saying you said it was 250 kilometers.
Yeah.
In 50-degree heat in the desert.
Oh, well, the heat is the funny thing, right? Because I'm born for the cold. I walk around in shorts and t-shirt all year round. So when I get to the heat, I am
shorts all year round. That the fact that you said that, respect. That is shorts all year round. Everyone needs to live by that.
I think that's the rugby player in me, maybe. But yeah, heat is going to be the challenge. So I have slowly started to try and get used to that. But that'll be one of the main markers that will hit me hardest will be the heat.
Is that treadmill in the sauna, or you ain't gonna get much heat over here, are you?
No, that's correct. Yeah, so I'm doing really simple things at the minute, like wearing layers. Just so I'm literally wearing like a really thick hoodie when I've been doing some runs. Not a huge amount yet, but just doing some. So like I think the longest I've done, I ran a half marathon. I think last week. I think it was in that YouTube video. I think where I wore a hoodie for it, and that just like makes such a big difference to how uncomfortable it feels when you wear those kind of layers. Like it'd be like when you see boxers and things for when they're trying to lose weight and sweat it out. So that, and then I'll probably try and get some heat chamber sessions in. So I know there's some local places like in Loughborough and things that have got a heat chamber where you can practice that. And then other than that, we just got to go over there and just see if we can crack it and just deal with it.
As long as you can do 50%, right?
Exactly, yeah. So I'm just going to do half the temperature.
Half the temperature, half the distance, you're all good to go.
Yes, exactly.
How much is your kit going to weigh? Because one of my lecturers did Marathon des Sables, and he sort of made like a whole lecture on it. It was interesting, and he had all his kit laid out, and he sort of said, well, the best in the world carry about 6 kilos with them. That's all their kit. So what were you looking at for all the stuff you're going to be actually carrying?
Yeah, so I haven't actually looked into the logistics of all that stuff yet, but
okay.
No, but it's a really good point, because obviously there's a lot of planning some of these events in terms of what you're going to carry, drink, food, kit-wise and things. You've got to carry your stuff to be able to sleep that night. And obviously in the desert, it does get cold at night. So that's one of the biggest things people don't realise is actually the worst thing about the desert is the change in temperature. So when I used to go away in the military, it's the biggest shock for me. I think the coldest I ever got to was something like -15 in the desert. And then the next day it's boiling hot again. So you need to be able to adapt with the temperature change. So you've got that element, the kit you're carrying and the food. The one benefit, obviously, most of these guys that do that, maybe like your lecturer, they're usually really slim and very, very light.
He must have been, with his kit on and carrying a rugby bag, he would have been about 65 kilos. So he was a tiny chap, really thin. He looked like kind of like, do you remember the film A Bug's Life? He looked like Flick.
Oh, okay, yes. Yeah,
really thin. Yeah. Like a lot of endurance athletes, they've got massive heads and tiny body because they've lost all the body weight. You're like the opposite to that. You're literally built like a horrible mutant, and you're going to be running through a desert, so good luck.
Hopefully that guy never watches this.
He doesn't know who I am now.
Okay, good. Well, I think, so I imagine I'll carry more than that because I'll probably need a bit more food as well. And the benefit to me being a bit heavier is probably that weight won't feel as bad. But I haven't actually planned, so no idea in terms of logistics or what I'll carry with me.
Have you watched the documentary with James Cracknell where he did Marathon des Sables?
Yes, I have.
And he had to cut, 15 kilo? I think he had to drop down to the low 90s to be able to compete. Right? He came 12th, I think.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
How many times has he done it?
I'm not sure. I remember him the first time he done it, which is in the documentary on, because he did like hot yoga running and stuff like that. So, it's just the fact that you carry your water and that's the only water you have for that 50K of that day. It just is shocking to me.
Am I right in also saying that you're rationed to how much you've got on you to be able to, and if you go over that, you actually have a time penalty?
Yeah, I believe so. I think if you carry over, I believe it's something like 12, 15 kilos, and you start to get penalised for it. So you're going to see my backpack full of food, and you'll see I've only got an hour to get it done, but it might be worth it.
How much does a scooter weigh? If I've got a scooter, I'll just go on that. And I'll take a few seconds off. I'll be flying past all of you.
Not sure how good it'll be in the desert, mate.
Whatever. Big tyres, mate.
I mean, it's such a hard race. You get penalised if they need to give you like electrolytes, like they have to put you on a drip. They give you a time penalty.
You get a time penalty if you die.
Yeah. It's like, God, we can give you the drip and you survive, or you can have a 3-minute time penalty.
You do have to
That's
sign.
the sort of guy. Nah, just kill me, mate. I'm not taking a time hit.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, you do have to sign some kind of waiver about dying. There is something. That's, I think, the famous thing about it. Yeah, there's some waiver you have to sign that if you die, it's not their responsibility, and they don't have to sort your body out or something like that.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I do believe 2 people have died doing the marathon. So
That we know about.
Yeah.
bit of motivation, mate.
Come on, give me more.
Yeah, that we know about, because all the other bodies have been left in the desert, mate. No one knows they're there.
Okay, cool.
I think it's like when they built the Hoover Dam. They used to always just ship the bodies or let it just sink into the concrete. No one died here. Don't worry about it. They just left you in the sand. That was it.
Yeah.
I mean, statistically, more people have probably died on a ski erg. I'm going to throw out there. Statistically, I reckon more have.
Yeah. God knows. I'm sure there will be someone, yeah.
Are you looking forward to it now?
I am actually, yeah. I'm really looking forward to that event. It's going to be really fun just to do it, as in, yeah, I do look forward to doing all these events. And this one, although, it's going to be really challenging, I'm just looking forward to the experience of being in that environment again and just seeing the different cultures. Like, I love going around seeing that kind of thing. And that's what I quite enjoyed about the Marines, was seeing so many different places of the world. And yeah, the challenge of seeing if you can get through it. I think sometimes I'm quite naive to the challenges, which is actually a good thing, because sometimes then it doesn't cause me too much pressure leading into it.
Yeah.
It's,
I mean, that's what Ross Edgley said, wasn't it? Be naive enough to start, but stubborn enough to finish.
Yeah. It's very true. No, it's so true though. It is so true. The one I did have where I was very naive and I slightly regretted it was I did an Ironman without training. So it was a big debate where I knew some people did an Ironman, and I said, I reckon you could do it without training for it. Just because I've seen, and you guys obviously into that industry, you understand it. They train so much and have to train the 3 different disciplines so much. They often end up getting lots of injuries.
Yeah,
so I was saying, I think it's possible to do it. So I signed up to an Ironman, not realizing that it was like the World Championships. So the time domain had been lowered down. So I think you had to complete it slightly quicker. It was in Frankfurt. And then I remember turning up, and I'd borrowed my mate's bike, and I turned up to the event, flew over there with the bike and stuff, and checked in and stuff. And I remember went to bed, and it was the first time before these challenges I went to bed and I couldn't sleep. So I was like, I've made a mistake here, because I saw everyone else's bikes. They're like amazing. And everyone else looked like they're ready to rock and roll. And I ain't got a clue what was going on. And it was suddenly that realization. I was like, oh God. But in the end, it was all right. It was tough. It was very, very tough. But
you had a bell on your bike.
Sorry?
You had a bell on your bike.
No, it wasn't that bad, but it was close.
A bell in a basket.
Yeah, I've got problems with that bike anyway. I've never been able to use it again because somehow, have any of you guys cycled before?
Yeah.
So the bike wasn't quite the right fit for me. So because I was sat on there for like 7-8 hours, it pressed into a nerve in my groin area, which meant
of course.
I lost feeling in my groin area, and this is not a joke. I lost it for a month. And it took a month to come back after the event. So yeah, I've had kind of like PTSD from using that bike. So yeah, that's another story in itself.
Yeah.
Any other positives from that Frankfurt triathlon?
No, just any tips. I would say definitely train for it. Yeah. So to give you perspective, I think swim wise, I only ever swum maybe like 2.5 kilometers, and obviously it's 2.5 miles, so it's a big difference. Cycling, I only ever cycled half the distance, and then the run, I'd ran a marathon sort of before, but maybe a proper just put my shoes on and run, it would have been about 18 miles. So I'd never really run a marathon before. And I remember thinking, I like running, I'll be all right. And I started to swim, never swum with a big group before, so started swimming. Everyone started banging into me, and I started swallowing the water, which then made me puke it up. And out of nowhere, and there I never had any. I sort of started, I had like a panic attack. I was like, "What is going on?" So I had to tread water and sort of just try and control my breathing. And then I started swimming again, and that was just, it was horrendous because the sun was coming up. It was really early in the morning, and the different boys you had to swim to were orange. So I had no idea where the boys were, and I didn't know how to like swim with a group. So I ended up like swimming in the wrong direction. I'd look up and the boy was over the other way somewhere. So I probably ended up swimming about 5 miles, but got on the bike, and the bike was actually really good because it was along the German like bypass freeway, whatever you call it, but they're autobahn, that's it. So it's just flat, fast. So that was quite good. And the only thing I had there, I started to cramp up a little bit. So I was just like having salt sachets and trying to eat at each stop and stuff. And I got on the run. I thought, I like running. And where you start running was all the crowd was. I ran about 10 steps and my legs just seized up and I couldn't hardly run. And
Did you do any brick training?
No, I literally didn't. I'm not exaggerating when I say I literally did nothing in the lead up. Obviously, I trained, but I didn't do any specific training for doing that event. Yeah. So the run was pretty horrendous because it was really hot as well. So there was actually a few people that died doing that event because it was, I think, the hottest Ironman had seen in years. So it was like,
wow,
it was up towards 40 degrees. So they were giving out ice just to lock down like all your kit and stuff just to keep you cool. So it was nasty. I was running past med tents, like hearing people scream and stuff. So I thought, oh, at least I'm not that bad. I can keep going. But it was pretty, yeah, it was a tough event.
Yeah.
What time did you finish with?
I want to say late 13 hours, something maybe.
Wow,
something
yeah.
or 14 hours. Yeah, late 13, I think. I think it was just before the 14 mark, I think, yeah.
For not training, that's insane.
So yeah. So if any listeners wanted to do it, train for it and get a good bike.
I backed out doing a half Ironman just training for it. So just couldn't stand training for it. I did a 100k bike ride. And I'm like, I'm not doing this again. This is ridiculous.
It's tough training doing those events. You know, respect to the guys and you know, they love it, but they, you know, there's to sacrifice a lot of time to train for those kind of things. It's gnarly, and I've got a lot of respect for people that do them.
Yeah, totally.
So it sort of lead me on to, you know, you just said it takes a lot of time to train for these sort of things. How do you manage your time? I mean, you're running, essentially, you've got 5 businesses still at the moment. I know you've got individual people running them. I'm presuming you're still overseeing quite a lot of it at the moment, and you're training for the 24-hour chin up, and you're training for the marathon. So, you know, what does a typical day look like?
Really mixed for me because I hate sort of set plans. I have a kind of routine I'll follow. But yeah, so I'm a bit weird. I think like I get a lot of my energy really early in the morning and then very late in the evening as well. So like, for instance, we're doing this obviously later in the evening, but after I get off this, I'll probably sit and continue working. So my afternoons where I feel tired, so I tend to try and train then to get through the tiredness, and then in the evenings I'll work. I hate just sitting around, so I usually have to be doing stuff anyway. It's very rare that I'll just sit and just do nothing. I have to be on the go constantly. So that sort of thing pays off for me. And then realistically, I'm just a bit nuts. So I'm thinking all the time about work, about everything. So I don't switch off, which is actually part of my problem as well moving forward. That I need to get control of that and be able to switch off a little bit. So in terms of balance in the minute, we're going through the transition. So I'm just helping the new gym owners transition into taking over. So there's a lot of work with that in the background, but all manageable. It's not a huge amount. I'm not like Superman. I'm not doing more than probably all you guys are doing. And then training wise, I think I just allocate a time to train and I'll just do it and I'll commit and I won't think about anything else when I'm doing that. So whether it be chin-ups or whatever, if I'm going to try and free up time to do it, I'll just make sure that I'll work outside of that as well, just as hard.
Yeah, I mean, it's very inspiring to watch someone be able to, you know, manage their time and then continue to run businesses and continue to go for these kind of records. I mean, most normal people would do a 9 to 5 and then they're done. It's hard enough to get them into the gym, let alone then deciding they're going to go and break records and do all this sort of stuff. So it's definitely inspiring to see someone like yourself.
Well, thank you, Mary. I think the big takeaway from it, I think, is that can sometimes be the problem for a lot of people when they compare and they think, oh, look at this person who's doing this, this, and this and stuff. And I will promise you now, I do not do anything more special than any of you guys or anyone else that listens to podcasts. I've got no secrets. I've got, I have the same stresses, the same mental health problems, the same limitations. But actually, what the biggest thing is? Just being willing to take the risk and go and do some of it. And the biggest thing I learned in the military was I look back on some time in the military and I was always scared of failure. So it stopped me trying to achieve something. So, a lot of the stuff I look back on and maybe look back and think, I could have done better was big. And a lot of it was fueled by being scared of failing for some reason. I think I was scared of what other people thought. Whereas I removed that element of it and realised that actually, if I, as an example, we'll talk up this chin-up world record. There's probably a high likelihood I'm going to fail it. But it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter if Dave down the road goes, look at him, idiot, failing it. Look, it's giving it large and then failing it. It doesn't matter because I'll be the one that's in it, giving it all, trying my hardest, and hopefully take something away from it, maybe a learning experience or help people. And I think that's the difference between what you would class as maybe someone that's normal or someone like myself who does some maybe weird different things. It's probably just the willingness just to take the step and go for it, and then making it enjoyable. So my training, I enjoy doing it, and when I don't train, it's because I'm not enjoying training. So I just fall off training if I'm not enjoying it. So the two elements there are probably being willing to go for it, and then making sure whatever process I'm doing, I love it.
That's, you know what? Yeah, that's brilliant. It really is, and that's probably the best way of being able to put, just to sum it all up. That's a really good way of being able to put it into words, is to say that you just do something because you enjoy doing it.
Yep, that one.
So on an off day, let's start. We've spoke about the records. We spoke about all the all the interest in endurance sports and things. But what do you do on an off day? What's your go-to? You said you don't like sitting around, but is there anything you do? Are you a film guy?
Yeah, I'm a film. Yeah, I'm film. Yeah, I love, like, one of the things I do and really enjoy doing is a film, because I quite immerse myself into the film. So it's my switch off, as in, like, I don't, I'm not getting messages. I'm not thinking about something. So I love films. Yeah, so films will probably be my one. Other off days, no, you know what? That's pretty much it. Obviously, amongst eating and I wouldn't even say sleeping really, because I enjoy sleeping, but I don't sleep that much. And then that'll probably be it. Nothing very exciting. There's not, like, I have little hobbies outside of that. Like, I enjoy climbing and doing some different sports that I will often do on off days, which is actually relaxing, like, for me to go and do. But yeah, I do love a good film. What's like your favourite films?
I was about to ask exactly the same thing. Was it hit the top 5? What's your top 5 favourite film?
Oh, no one can do the top 5.
You can't do this to us. Just can't pull it out like that.
I'll go for some of them. I think.
Jump back real quick. I want you to talk about climbing, because I've literally done it like once, but I've got a couple of questions on that one. But we'll do the films first.
Okay, so I think my favourite film would probably, have you seen Man on Fire?
Yes.
That's good. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I do like a Denzel Washington film. Man on Fire. Other films are things I like. Any Guy Ritchie films. So, like Snatch, Lock, Stock. What's the new one called? Gentleman is, really, really good. Love those films. And then maybe something like Layer Cake as well, which is like old school. Daniel Craig. Yeah. Maybe top 5 would be those 5. Yeah.
Wow.
Very good.
So, like a pretend gangster. That's what. Yeah. So like,
is that what you do in your downtime?
That would be when I'm watching films.
This is making any future therapy for your crazy stunts. It's making it all quite easy now. This is where it's all come from. These dodgy films you're watching.
That's what it is. Yeah, that's what it is. So, what were you going to ask about climbing?
Oh, I just find it, like, really fascinating whenever I watch things and look at the type, because you've touched on mindset a few times, and I think when you look at extreme sports, extreme conditions, extreme places where people are doing these sports, I think climbing's one that really jumps out to me, and I love watching stuff on. And a couple of years ago, I watched Alex Honnold's film he made with his his climbing friends, Free Solo. You must have seen it. do you not think it's just like one of the greatest feats that any sports person's ever done? I struggle to find more. I mean, fair enough. One thing that comes out in the video is this idea of risk, and I love talking about that with people, and just the fact that he had like very curved opinion on how like he viewed risk and how he was going to go through it. And then you've seen him at the end of the climb, a minute or two under 4 hours to climb a kilometre vertical with no ropes. It was just a different level, and I just like loved watching. I was like, there's some psychological things there I want to look at, and I don't think I have the tools to sort of unpick it all.
You cannot even comprehend what he achieved doing that. Even like you can explain it to someone. It's a bit like when you hear in an advert, it's the way the human brain works. You hear a million people are starving in Africa. You can't quantify that in your head. You just, and then you forget about it. It's the same with this event. It's nuts. To give you perspective, like you said there, he climbed over a kilometre high, no ropes. And it's not like it's just like a little scramble. Like this is a vertical climb. There's a point halfway up, or near, just over halfway, 600 meters high up. It's a dead drop over, and he does something called a boulder move, where most professional climbers can't do it. And he has to use 2 fingers and then jump across like a few meters across a gap to get to the handhold, which is again just like a little crimp, which is just like fingertips. And he does that from 2 fingers to fingertips. And the likelihood, when he was practicing it for months before, he was falling on it, and he went and did it with no ropes, bam, got across. I recommend watching it because it will give you I thought they videoed it so well, the way they recorded and that.
Yeah.
So yes, I can understand. Obviously, I know he's got some things in terms of the way his body releases adrenaline. But it's funny enough, we're having this conversation a few days ago about risk, and everyone's different, right? But so for me, and part of the worry, say for like, for instance, my parents or partner and things, is that naturally I'm going to keep evolving. If I complete the next thing, I'm going to push it and go harder and go more dangerous. But in my eyes, I genuinely would rather die younger, knowing that I've got after and tried to achieve things that made me feel maybe fulfilled or happy, than do none of that and just drift along through life until I got older, which actually, isn't the right or wrong thing, because some people will be the opposite and be like, he's an idiot. What's he doing that for? I want to live until I'm 80 or 90 or 100. But it's just the way my head thinks. And that, so I can sort of comprehend where his head comes from in those things. Like,
well, what's that old saying? Some people die at 20, but they wait till they're 80 to bury them. So you're just someone that wants to get after it and do some crazy stuff and enjoy it, aren't you?
That's a really good saying, yeah.
So
I just want to know what you know about climbing, because that video is just like epic. So
what's it called, Chris?
Free solo. Kieran, you'd love it.
Free solo.
Yeah, the way he talks, and now he goes around and does various talks and stuff. I don't think there's really anything else he can do, because Jack just said it's impossible to quantify, but it's impossible to even explain what I did. The way I think of it is he's produced an Olympic level performance over 4 hours, when the consequence is absolute death, no matter what.
Yeah.
And it was just a perfect performance. He's flawlessly achieved his sport where the consequence was death. And I think you talk about the difficulty of the climb. They're rated, I think it's like 1 to like 15, and then there's some letter breakdowns as well. So I think that climb in Yosemite National Park, El Cap, is like a 12. There's elements where it's like a 12C, 12D, and it only goes up to like 15. 15 is like, you can't even stay on this thing. It's impossible. You can't climb on it. And he's climbed like a 12 or like the difficult 12s. It's just like unreal.
So you mentioned earlier, Jack, that you want this as an evolution for you, is once you've done something, you're going to go on to the next thing. So have you got any ideas what the next thing is once you've ran the hardest race known to man? I mean, what is there after that?
I've got a list of ideas, mate. Yeah, so I think I love the outdoors. So I want to try and combine the ability, and I want to improve my skill set in those environments, which I used to spend a lot of time in. So yes, I've got a list of things. So if you guys are into like or seen any kind of exploration work before, you might have read or heard about the South Pole, and then also the struggles that people like Shackleton and Scott and Munson went through to try and get to the South Pole. And losing their lives, and some crazy stories, and there's some fantastic books about it. So yeah, the South Pole is something I'd like to do. There is something called the South Pole landmass crossing, which is around 1,000 miles. So you start at one end, the landmass, you then go to the South Pole, but then you carry on going through down to the other end. So you go all the way across. Solo, no support. You drag something called your poke, which is like a sled. And you have to survive, and it's months and of moving, trying to just cover distance with no kind of engagement. Sorry,
it's months.
Yeah, so you're traveling. I think on a good day, depending on weather, you'll be doing around 20 miles. So you got to think there's 1,000 miles you got to get across. No support, so you've got to carry all your own food. So if you run out of food, you run out of food.
What animals are you going to come into contact there?
None.
It's quite hostile.
Maybe at the start, but yeah, none. None. The conditions are too harsh, apparently. So
is that not a warning sign for you? That even the wildlife goes, fuck it, I'm not getting involved.
Yeah, no, it is. Well, I think that's the challenge with that is the ability to deal with the monotony of the event. So there's only ever been 2 people that have done it. Other people have tried it and they've died doing it or had to get rescued. Some really, crazy stories that I recommend any of you, if you're into it, to listen into and find out about. But it's crazy. So yeah, South Pole is something that really interests me. I think I've been interested in that for a long, long time, and reading stories of Shackleton and things. I've got a big idea of doing like a different challenge in each continent. So that will be something I might be starting to build for in the future, which will be the main thing, which realistically, all the stuff I'm currently doing is just training for that, is in the big event. So looking at things, for instance, like the landmass crossing, potentially rowing down the Nile, swimming between the North and South Island of New Zealand, climbing Everest. So I love mountaineering, so that's sort of something I would love to tick off and say I've done. There's some other things like K2 and things that I'd like to tick off with mountaineering, but Everest would be one of them. Cycle across America. I'd like to go to the Amazon and trek across the Amazon. So there's loads there, and the idea for me is that each of these different things I do will be a natural evolution of challenge and another learning experience for me, where I'll be put into a vulnerable situation that's high risk. I think one of the things that maybe there's not so much out there at the minute is high risk in terms of these explorations. A lot of them are, they're going to get through it. They've got a big support network. Whereas if I'm carrying my GoPro and, that's pretty much it, there's going to be a lot of high element risk to some of the things I'll do, and maybe very, very physically challenging, which I'm excited to have a go at. The challenge is going to be like the challenge you may have seen me doing at the minute, is building up a bit more of a media profile. I've literally just started, but that's the next goal, to hopefully enable me to be able to do some of these amazing things. And I'll be very lucky if I get to do them and hopefully make a bit of a difference with that.
So I think I'm going to speak for the other guys as well, that we should never let you and Ross Edgley in one room together.
Yeah, maybe not. He's obviously got a lot more experience and exposure with all that kind of stuff. But yes, that's very much the kind of avenue that I am trying to go down. So
you've just come off the back of actually doing a 2-day challenge, correct?
Yes, I did a little bit of training. Yes, I went down over to the Norfolk coast. So
what counts as a little bit of training? So I'll just like everyone listeners to actually hear what this was over the 2 days.
Okay, so it was. I basically, there was, if you're honest, there was no real plan to it. It was very much drive to sunny Honey and Stanton. I'm sure you guys have all been across there. I spent a long time down there.
Never. That's not a Corby thing to do.
So yes, drive over there and then literally kit on. So I had about 20 kilos of kit, backpack and stuff, and just make my way down the coast along. There's like a Norfolk coastal path. Make my way down the coastal path as far as I could that day, then set up camp and then try and get back again. So it was more so just to see how I got on with moving that kind of weight again. I haven't done it for a while, for over a long time, and then deal with the demoralising factor that as the further I walk out, I've also got to go and try and get back that distance as well. So it plays with your head. So one of the biggest things with doing these events is actually training your mind. And that's where people forget, because, you think, Jesus, 24 hours. Well, I didn't just jump in and do 24 hours. All the things I've done over time has built and trained my head to deal with those different situations and challenges you face within those kind of endurance things. So yeah, that was it basically. It was a good challenge. It was good. I've actually videoed it all, so I'm gonna edit it and make it into a vlog on YouTube as well. But yeah, I ended up doing about 105 kilometers, I think, in about 20 hours.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, it wasn't, it wasn't running. I was running, walking probably the first half of the first day. And then after that, I was having to walk because the weight was getting heavy. Carrying that kind of weight on your back makes a big difference to whether you can move fast or not. So it was literally just to just keep going.
I'd be crawling or Ubering, probably just taxiing. I think probably
sounds
the best
good
way.
to think about if there was Uber in Norfolk. Yeah. It was a good challenge though, because by like by 3:30, 4 p.m. it was pitch black, and it was literally in the middle of nowhere, and I hadn't seen anyone for hours. And it was quite funny because there was part of the path that was closed, so I had to sort of do a different route, and I had no maps with me or anything. So I started going through it and ended up getting stuck in the middle of marshland, and it was like late at night. And there was no way to camp there because everyone was soaking wet. And then I had to try and backtrack out, end up climbing over fences through farmers' fields and things, and managed to get out of it. But it was like 11 o'clock at night. And then I got to the halfway point I wanted to get to, and I was like, well, I couldn't set up camp there because it was on a beach and it was literally marshland, then just a little bit of beach. You can't camp on the marshland because it's soaking wet, so your tent would just sink. And I couldn't camp on the beach because it was pitch black. I didn't know if the tide was going to come in all the way over the beach, which would have been funny if I set up and fell asleep. So then I had to end up walking for like another 4 hours after that, three hours maybe, just to go back eventually to get to a point that I could set up the tent and go to sleep. So yeah.
So for part of your training for this marathon are you going to be doing any sort of beach running or anything like that just to try and get the sand on your feet?
Yes, yeah, we'll do. Yeah, I'll try and get onto the beach because it's supposed to be a massive thing. The two things are the sand and the heat. So the sand, apparently, the heat and the sand together make your feet expand, which actually I did experience. The hardest thing about yesterday on the walk back, probably for the last 30 kilometers, my feet were really painful, and I think it's because my feet were swollen up. So inside my shoes or trainers that I was walking with, they just felt like compressed. So it's really painful. So apparently that's part of the problem. And the other one is sand, as in the effort you have to do to go through it. And then obviously sand just blooming getting everywhere and causing blisters, grazes, all sorts.
So is there anything they say about, wearing a next size up in trainer, or is it you read into that at all?
They say wear the next size up. And obviously I'm from Rushden as well. So that means I have 6 toes.
I was about to say, you've got compensate.
That's another challenge in itself. And then so you wear shoes a little bit bigger, and then you have to wear these. I believe you wear these special kind of gaiters that stop sand getting inside your trainers as well.
Yeah.
Is that why then when you did a little tour of the gym a while ago? Is that why you could barely walk and you were limping for the whole thing?
Well, which one was that for? What was that?
Like a minute ago when you did a tour of the gym.
Oh, right. Oh, just now. Oh,
yeah, I thought you were kind of like, I could barely walk.
Yeah, I'm a bit sore today, to be fair. I was bad this morning. It's always the worst bit when you first wake up, isn't it? Oh. So going down the stairs this morning was very sore, but I sort of warmed into it. I feel okay now. And the nice thing with doing the chin-up challenge means is I can just mug off my legs for a few days now and just do arms. So that's a benefit in itself.
So is there anything else you'd like to cover? Any other events or anything you've got coming up that you want to speak about?
No, I think events-wise, that's it for now. I wouldn't probably announce anything until I've got it down, but I'm sure we can probably jump on and chat again in the future about and review some of the bits we've talked about and what I've done, and then I'll hopefully completed, and then we can talk about future things coming up. I suppose I after you messaged me, I did listen to some of the stuff and the work you guys have done already, which is fantastic. I'm sure it's been a real benefit to other people, but mental health is obviously huge at the minute, and I'm seeing, and I suppose the biggest problem you see now is you see people online and you see them living their best life, and you probably see the stuff I'm pushing out now and think, oh, look at what he's doing, he's loving it and everything. But I'll tell you now, I have the same struggles as everybody else with mental health, with staying positive, with the challenges that we all face, anxiety. So you're not alone, and I know it's sort of a cliche thing to say, but it is really true. Everyone, you aren't on your own. Everyone's going through those experiences. I'm going through them, as I'm sure all of us have the same kind of struggles. So, yeah, reach out if you come and drop me a message. When I released that YouTube video last week, I was really surprised. I had like 4 or 5 messages from mainly guys just saying about mental health problems they've been fighting with. So that was really nice to be able to chat to those guys just via Messenger and hopefully maybe offer them a little bit of advice. But yeah, just because I'm doing some of these crazy things doesn't mean that I'm just as normal as everyone else.
Yeah, it's something we touch upon quite a lot on the podcast is mental health. We have been trying for a few weeks now, well, actually for a couple of months, I think, to try and reach out to a couple of mental health experts, see if we can get someone, just do a dedicated podcast to mental health. So if there's anyone listening out there who wants to come on and talk about mental health, we'd love to have a professional's point of view. It also gives us somewhere to refer people to if they do have problems. And as Jack just said, then reach out. You can catch us on Instagram, you can catch us on YouTube, you can catch Jack, you can catch Scott, you can catch Chris. Even if it's just someone to have a chat with because you're feeling a bit low, that's absolutely fine. Just drop us a message and we'll do what we can. And if we can't help you, then hopefully we can put you in the direction of someone who might be able to from a professional standpoint. Anything anyone else would like to add?
All good, mate.
No, I'm going to go from the silence as there's nothing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
go on.
I need a minute.
You've had like an hour. So Jack, thank you very much for joining us. So we will do our quick sign off that we always do. So Chris, where can we find you?
Mackenzie.strength.
Scott, where can we find you?
Scott speaking on Instagram.
And a big thank you to our guest this week, which was Jack Fleckney. And where can we find you?
You can find me at Jack Fleckney.
Cool, and we'll put all the links below for this video, so you can go and check out Jack and all the work he's doing, and also the charities that he's currently supporting. You can find me at let's_talkaboutit. You can also go to www.letstalkaboutit.co.uk for all the past podcasts, including PR or Bomb Out, which is hosted by our one and only Scott Carson. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you. I'll do that again. Thank you very much for watching, and we will catch you guys again soon.